So in today's tailoring class, you're going to learn how to cut the flare. Okay, we're going to learn how to cut the full flare or the 360 degrees flare and then the 720 degrees flare. Okay, let me go on to say that if you have not already subscribed to our channel, that you subscribe now and hit on the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video is uploaded. At this point, let's get on with it. So I'll be working with a circumference 12 inches. Okay, when I talk about a circumference of 12 inches, I'm talking about a waist measurement of 12 inches, right? Okay, so we are going to be cutting the full flare or the 360 degrees flare. Okay, that's what we are cutting today. And usually to get the best effect in a flared skirt or sleeve or whatever, wherever you're putting your flare, the fabric should be sheer or it should drape, or let's say the fabric should be cotton, silk, organza, satin. Those soft, frail fabrics gives you the effect more than any other fabric that is heavy. Okay, so let's go on to it. And flares are usually cut on a bias instead of a straight grain. We're going to have to get our fabric and then we move on from there. Okay, what the fabric I'm using now is Duchess satin, and that is brilliant for this effect. So let's get on with it. Okay, so as I said earlier, the waist measurement I'm using, which is on the circumference, is 12 inches, and then the length of skirt I want to do is 6 inches. Okay, so let's do a little bit of calculation before we start. So I'm showing you the easiest and the simplest way to cut a flare. I know there are calculations where you do the pi r square and all that, but I'm not doing that today. I want you as a beginner, if you're learning how to sew a flared skirt, you'll be able to do it easily with no hassle. Okay, so we are working with 12 inches waist measurement and the length of skirt is 6 inches. Now, because you're going to have an opening in your skirt, you'll have to add the seam allowance or the opening allowance to it. All right, so the opening allowance you're going to be adding is 2 inches. That is all I want to add as my opening. Okay, so in total the waist circumference is no more 12 but 12 plus 2 for the opening, and that takes us to 14 inches. So we are working with 14 inches. Now I'm going to bring my fabric. Okay, so this is my fabric. As I stretch it out, I'm going to fold it into 4 because we want to cut a full flare skirt. Okay, so we are folding it into 4, or because we want to cut a 360 degrees flare, I'm going to fold the fabric into 4, and that is what I have done. If you look at it here from the edge, 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? I folded it into 4. Okay, now when we fold your fabric into 4, what it means then now is you're going to be dividing your 14 inches, which is your waist circumference, by 4 because you folded the fabric into 4. Okay, and what will that give us? That gives us 3.5 inches. So we are working with 3.5 inches as our measurement for the waist. Okay, so I'm going to just just guess where 3.5 inches will take us, and from the look of things, that is around here, right? That is around here as we guess it. I told you earlier that you cut your flare on a bias. Okay, so we are going to be using this end here as our waist measurement, right? I took a measurement from here to here. I just wanted to gauge where I can find 3.5, and that took me here. If you look at the measuring point, so I know that my measurement is going to be starting from somewhere here around it. Okay, so I'm going to be measuring 2.5 inches and take it all the way around, right? You should be doing this on the wrong side of your fabric. All the markings as usual go on the wrong. So from the corner here, we are taking 2.5 inches round, right? Then we'll check on that line we've just done if we can get our 3.5 inches, which is the waist measurement we are supposed to be working with there. Okay, I hope I'm making sense. So on this line, I'm going to see if I can get 3.5 inches on that line. I've even gotten more than 3.5 inches if you look at it here. Okay, so you can either decide to take the measurement further up a little bit or just leave it the way it is. I'm just going to leave it the way it is for now. But as you measure with me, you can see that 3.5 inches actually ends here, and there's another inch extra left. I can either leave it or start my measurement again and take it a step higher like that and say, let me from here to here just take 2 inches all the way around. So now on this line, let's see if we can get 3.5. Okay, now we got 3.5 on this line, so we have to be cutting actually on this line. Okay, so we'll cut. Okay, now this becomes our waist measurement. Right, now let's measure the length of the skirt, how long we want the skirt to be. Right, so 6 inches is our actual length of skirt. Okay, length of skirt. Right, so let's add 6 inches plus 1 inch for hem. Okay, and then plus half an inch for your stitch or seam allowance up here. Okay, so when we add all of that together, that makes it 6 plus 1 7, so 7.5 is the length of skirt we're going to be working with. So in the end, when we've taken all our seam allowances out, we come to 6. Right, so I'm going to be cutting the skirt at 7.5 inches, and we are going to take it round. Now let me show you another thing you can also do. You can just put in your first two 7.5 inches measurement like that. Okay, then you cut your first, and then as you cut, you fold on top of it, so you make sure that you're lining it up to your waist here. Okay, and that will give you the place to cut. So if you look at it, I hope you can see what I'm doing though. Okay, so if you look at it, it's actually giving you the fold to cut. So I'm going to just cut along the fold. Right, then we move it. Make sure you are lining up the waist at the top before you cut. Right, so I'm going to have to put this on top of it to help me cut. Okay, so you just line the top up, and then it will help you cut the bottom as well. Right, so we have if you can see, our flare skirt, our 360 degrees flare skirt, and that is it here. Okay, now we need to just split. You can split anywhere of the skirt, just put a slit in one bit here. So I'm just going to be creasing this here, and that is where I'm going to put my slit for my zipper or seam allowance. Right, so this is it. I'm going to fold it off, and then we'll put a waistband, try and hem the bottom, and then we take it from there as well. Okay, so I cut a waistband of 2 inches wide and then 14 inches long, knowing that I have my 12 inches waist measurement in there, and then a few inches for seam allowances and for my seam allowances on the end. Okay, so I'm going to start stitching my waistband onto the waist like that. So the right side of the fabric is going to face the right side of my main fabric. Okay, I'm going to leave about an inch here for my seam allowance and my turning in and all of that. Stitching at a quarter of an inch from the hem, so that will be around here as a quarter of an inch seam allowance all the way around. Okay, I'm going to stitch it all the way around, and when I get here, remember we left this excess fabric that we're going to be working with later as we do the band. Okay, so now I have the band stitched on to it, the bottom bit attached to the skirt. I'm going to fold the band on itself such that the raw side will be showing, and then the right and the right side will be facing each other like that. So if you look at the edge, I'm going to try and let the edges of the band meet, and then I'll run a stitch to meet where I have stitched. Okay, so my stitch is just going to be here, and it's not going to go any further. I'm going on to do that for you to see now. and then I'll bring it back to show you what is next. All right, so after stitching it like that, you're going to turn it inside. So then it means that your band on the side is finished beautifully. And when you fold it, it also folds onto the end of where your seam or your zip is going to go. Okay, so if you look at it, your band is actually finished beautifully on this side by doing this step. Now the next thing is just to fold this bit on top of it. So fold it on top of it, and then we run a top stitch over it all. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this step here that I did here as well. So if you look at it, I've finished off the edges of our band beautifully. What is left is just to turn it in. So I'm going to start from the middle. Okay, spread the skirt out like that, and then do a fold, and then put it on top of this stitch line here, and then put your pin in place to hold it down. So you start from here, work your way round to the end. Right, so our band is fixed. As you can see, it's fixed beautifully. We still have our flare or our folds in place. Next thing I want to do is to put my side seam in before we do the hem, right? So I know that there was 2 inches we left, so I'm going to try and make sure you are matching your seam allowances on this side. As for the bottom, if it's long, you can always trim it off a little bit so it's a bit longer after stitching. But I know that I'm going to be stitching 1 inch away from the edge. Okay, so I'm stitching at about this bit here and leave it, knowing that this bit is going to be where my zipper is going to sit. Right, so the side seam is stitched. Okay, you can always run your serger at the ends to keep it clean. And then this is where our zipper is going to sit. Now let's move on to the hem. So what I'm going to do at the hem is just to use my serger or to use a zigzag stitch, and then after that I'll fold it on top of it like that and then run a stitch all over it. So I'm going to do that and bring it back to you, and then we'll be done with the skirt. Okay, there we are. So this is what we have. The simplest way to cut, sew, and finish a flare skirt from beginning to end. Okay, so this is what we have, and this is where our zipper is going to be. Okay, so this is it for the 360 degrees full flare skirt from top to bottom, cutting and stitching it at the same time in this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up. Also subscribe if you've not done that already, and hit on the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video is uploaded. Don't forget to leave all your comments in the comment section below, and then let's catch up again in our next video. Have a lovely day.